The Nike Air Force One is going to celebrate 40 years of existence next year in 2022. Since 1982, this silhouette has been practically unchanged. Now, in recent times, I've done some videos about how they are tweaking a couple of their classic lines over the Nike line, Dunk Lows, for example, and the Air Force Ones. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. In the case of this week, we were looking at the Dunk Low scraps, and there were two in particular. I can't remember what the first one was called, but the other one was like Sea Glass or something like that. I'll throw up a picture of them here. And I was like, no, sorry Nike, it didn't work. That little tweaking of a classic line hasn't worked in the case of this shoe. And then here at the Air Force One line, there are still some that I think are not great. I'm not thrilled with that one that comes with the cover around it. I can't remember what it's called, like something like Exceptional or a Special Edition. It's not Special Edition, but like Crazy Trial shoe or something weird like that. And I'm not thrilled with that, but I am absolutely 100% on with these guys. This is the CRAFT line, and it's one of those little changes to the classic silhouette that they've got right. And basically just about everything on a CRAFT shoe, I think, is absolutely fire and very, very cool. And now that I think about it, actually I hadn't thought about this before standing in front of the camera, but there's a particular one that I liked. It's something like magenta orange or something like that. I can't remember its exact name, but I'll be able to throw it up behind me here. But it was a very, very nice shoe, and it really encapsulated everything that I love about the Air Force One CRAFT line. The quality materials, the interesting placement of the branding, and the little extra details in the construction of the shoe that set it apart from your standard Air Force One silhouette. And then here we are. I saw this one coming down the line. I thought, you know, I do love my CRAFTs. I think I'll have a look at that. And to be honest, without kind of giving it away too much and too early in the video, there's something here I didn't like. And you know, it's like, I don't know, 90% of the shoe, 95% of the shoe is absolutely fire, but the one kind of detail that sets these guys apart from the other CRAFT shoes in the line, I actually think is a little bit too much, and it doesn't really do it for me. It's a bit gimmicky. The rest of the shoe is sleek and very high quality and very nice, but when it comes to this gimmick, it's not really the thing that's doing it for me. So we're going to get into all that today. We'll look at that gimmick, we'll look at the construction of the shoe and the different hits on it and how they've decided to go with those hits in this particular one, especially in terms of color, and then we'll look all over the shoe at the different details, especially that colorway. So first things first, let's have a look at the gimmick that I'm talking about, and what I'm looking at is this right here. You'll be looking on the green screen there at the swoosh on the lateral side of one of these guys. Now they're saying beetroot. I think they're saying sail and dark beetroot, and it's not too hard to guess which part of the shoe is sail and which part is dark beetroot. So we're looking at the swooshes, and they're done in that dark beetroot. And I think that would have been fine if they'd just gone with something like, say, tumbled leather on there, which is not unusual at the CRAFT line, high quality materials, or even just a flush standard kind of leather on there. But for some reason, they've decided to dimple the swooshes on the side of these guys, and you'll be able to see it, I'm sure. Hopefully it's showing up fine on the green screen. You see what I mean about this? All over the swoosh, the entire swoosh, front to back, covered in very small dimples that are just sort of, you know, all the way throughout it. And I'm not entirely sure why they do that and what their intention is and what they're kind of hoping to achieve with it. And like I said, without that, if it was just your standard dark beetroot colorway on there, I think that would have been absolutely fine. So, and that's even more exaggerated when you go to one of the signature changes in this shoe that's different from the classic Air Force One silhouette to these guys, and that's round the back on the branding panel. So what you'll be looking at here has three major details on it. Two of them classic standard CRAFT line at the Air Force One line, but one of them particular for this shoe. And we'll start with the one that's particular for the shoe, and it's basically the same as the swoosh. You've got that beetroot colored branding panel on the back, and it's dimpled throughout with a lot of tiny, very highly concentrated dimples all the way through there. And again, not really feeling it. Not sure what they were intended to go with. I think a blank branding panel on the back would have been enough for these guys. But thinking about that branding panel on the back being blank, that's one of the standard things that comes with the CRAFT line at the Air Force One, is that they don't put branding on the back. Usually on Air Force Ones you'd see some kind of Nike branding on the back here to distinguish it, you know, as a Nike shoe. I think Nike Swoosh Air would be the most standard you'd see on the back of an Air Force One. But as you can see on these guys, and this is standard for the CRAFT line, nothing in that branding panel at all. And the clever little detail that I do love is they've dropped that down below the branding panel into what is almost a heel Dubray, and we'll get to the Dubrays at the front of these guys in a minute. But basically you can imagine the size and the shape of this little hanging tag below the branding panel, usually in a very high quality leather, and all it says on there is AF1, which very much reminds one of the Dubrays at the front. The quality of the materials, the interesting position of it, the really stripped back branding of it, yes, all over that in this shoe and any of the Craft lines. So it's great to see that on there. But with those dimples above, it's sort of like, not really feeling it. But then we go to the other end of the shoe, towards the front, and there's a couple of things to look at. We've already talked about the Dubrays, so we might as well go there first. At the bottom of the lacing system, usually an Air Force One comes with a Dubray down there. Sometimes they play with it and do some really extraordinary stuff with it. It's not just a standard little piece of metal with AF1 on there or a swoosh on there. It's something really, really wild, like the 1-800s that dropped about 6 months ago now, I think it would have been. They actually had, instead of a flat metal Dubray, what they had was the keys on a public payphone, and in each key it said AF1 for Air Force One. So that was a really sort of wild take on the Dubray. But that wouldn't fit with these Craft lines. Craft is all about high quality, laid back, subdued, kind of confident quality, if you know what I'm saying. And that's why the Dubray on these guys looks like this. It's got that real sleek kind of feel to it with the Air Force One AF1 branding in the middle of it, but it has got that, it just feels a little bit more quality and a little bit more in the shoe. And then if we go up from that, one of the big points again that comes on these Craft lines is the tongue branding on there, because usually a Nike Air Force One would say Nike Swoosh Air, and then under that would say Air Force One. And I usually say in my videos, if you read that quickly, it says Nike Air Force One, and you've got a double Air in there. But because they've decided to switch that up and go with some sleek branding on there that just simply says, I think if I'm right in saying, just Air Force One, it's a real neat little detail and a real stripped back, laid kind of teamed back, is that the word? Stripped back branding at the top of the tongues there. And it's mimicked on the insole of these guys. You see the swoosh in there and that Air Force One on the inside as well. And both of those come in that maroon kind of beetroot colorway, and both of them come with the white background on there to sort of support that and help it pop right out of the shoe. So these are major kind of details that set Air Force One Craft aside from the regular Air Force One silhouette. But then on top of that, you've got some of the regular stuff to go with the shoe. So we've already talked about the sail color, and that's for all probably most obvious on the toe. So we'll bring back that toe so you can see the ventilation holes on the front and the color sail that comes out very strongly in the toe. Then another standard feature of Air Force Ones is down on the midsole, the Air branding on there that runs from the lateral side all the way around to the medial side in a long strip that runs around there. I was looking for the beetroot colorway in that Air branding on there. I was surprised not to see it. However, I was pleased to see opposite that the stitching that holds the midsole to the upper is actually done in the beetroot color, and that really, really makes sense to me, and it helps break up what is a very sort of dull color. Sail is quite a dull color, quite an absorbing color, if you like, and if that red line hadn't been there splitting the midsole from the upper, it would have just been too overwhelming on the entire shoe. So a little feature that I appreciate on there. And another feature I appreciate is when Air Force Ones do colored outsoles, which they don't always do. It's not unusual to see white outsoles on Air Force One. So if you flip these guys upside down, you'll see front to back the entire length of the shoe in that maroon beetroot colorway to set off the final element of the shoe and to kind of finish it off with a bit of a color flourish on there. So back out, have a look at the whole shoe. Like I said, imagine this with a flush sort of straight up leather or textured leather, tumbled leather swoosh on the side, and that heel branding there. And these would have been out of this world. I just don't understand what they were going for with that dimpled effect. I'm not sure what it was that they were intending to achieve and whether or not they've achieved that or not. But as far as I'm concerned, it's the first of the Craft line from Air Force One that's just a little lower than what I would expect. Speaking of things being a little lower than what I'd expect, I just watched some Olympics. It's what day is it? Wednesday night. I think it's the 4th of August, and the Olympics is kind of moving into the middle of the second week. Japan just lost a table tennis match against Germany in the semi-final, which was disappointing. However, before that, Japan did win a baseball match against Korea in the semi-final. So great to see Japan pushing on with the medals, highest gold medal count in any Olympics for Japan, which is not unusual. The host nation often do very well in the medals. So it's going great. Enjoy enjoying the Olympics. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well out there. I did notice, it's worth talking about, maybe we'll get to it in another video, that Puma or Puma, depending where you are in the world, have got a lot of shoes on display. A lot of athletes wearing Puma, and I was really surprised to see that, because Nike predominantly, and then maybe Adidas are the ones that you look for, but Puma are kind of bringing up their game. So that's something to keep an eye out for in the last week of the Olympics. But with that being said, it's time just to wrap up this video. So all I have to do is the same thing that I do every single day, which is remind you that because I do this every single day, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.